Bioshock Infinite was my most anticipated game of 2013. I have literally been frothing at the mouth to play it. The reason for this is because I absolutely adored the original Bioshock, and it stands out to me as the greatest game I have ever played. So with 3 years of development time behind it and relentless hype around it, I had some seriously high expectations for Bioshock Infinite. Does Bioshock Infinite have the power to rise above the heights of the original groundbreaking game? Let's find out.
Just take off.
5,000 feet. 10,000 feet. 15,000 feet. Hallelujah.
In Bioshock Infinite, you play as Booker DeWitt, a man plagued with money problems and guilt for his dark past. Bring us the girl, wipe away the debt, is what you're told as you are escorted to a lighthouse in the middle of the ocean. As you reach the top of the lighthouse, you find an ominous red chair sitting waiting for you. As you sit down, you are strapped in and launched into the sky. Then you finally reach your destination, the wondrous and dreamlike utopia named Columbia, a city in the sky. Once on foot, you must find the girl only known as Elizabeth and bring her back to clear your debt. But nothing is as it seems in Columbia. Various games have tried to tackle hard-hitting subjects like religion, racism, and socio-economic segregation, but few games have done even one of these subjects well, and even fewer have made you actually ponder your own beliefs. Bioshock Infinite somehow tackles them all, and the most impressive part is that it handles these subjects with the importance and respect they deserve, while also challenging them at every turn. It's in this respect that Bioshock Infinite reaches heights in storytelling that were thought to be unreachable in a video game. Its ideas are so inventive and thought-provoking that it's best to just experience it for yourself. The main characters Booker and Elizabeth are impeccably written, and the chemistry between these two is electrifying. The standout character though has to be Elizabeth. Elizabeth is the biggest achievement that Bioshock Infinite boasts, not just in a well-written character standpoint but also in a technological standpoint. The way she acts and the way she is written really makes you care for her and actually worry for her in firefights, making every second you spend with her enjoyable and fun, while also making the darker moments in the game more frightening and worrisome. She is just an impressively written character that stands out to me in a game full of impressively written characters. The game's main antagonist, Zachary Hale Comstock, is an ideological man hell-bent on ultranationalism and control through religion and the power it represents. He is a character study on how far someone will go to keep him or herself in control. Comstock is a great villain and definitely rivals the original's Andrew Ryan in terms of memorability and depth, but arguably the biggest and most involving character in the game is Columbia itself. The setting of Columbia is so well realized and polished that exploring the various areas of the city and checking out the numerous artwork, posters and destination memorabilia is one of the most enjoyable and interesting things to do. It's a place built out of the beliefs of one man and the torment and harms of the ones who keep it running. I found Columbia to be a creepier place than Rapture ever was, as Rapture, even in all its darkly lit horrific glory, cannot stand to beat the unsettling and relentlessly twisted atmosphere that Columbia excels in. Columbia is simply a marvel. Bioshock Infinite also incorporates player choice in a way that has never been so affecting to me before. As you may remember, in the original Bioshock, the biggest choice you could make was whether you would save or harvest the Little Sisters. This idea was a great idea on paper, but ultimately fruitless in its execution because most players wouldn't care enough for a little girl character they barely know to give up the bigger bounty in order to be a better person. But in Infinite, it's Elizabeth's character that changes all that. For instance, when you're faced with a similar decision of sparing someone or dispatching them, you will suddenly have to really think what you do because Elizabeth will be watching you the whole time. Do you want to accidentally damage your relationship with Elizabeth and do the wrong thing, or try to keep the relationship stable? It's a great use of a character and really makes you as DeWitt really think about how your actions and choices can affect the people around you. Overall, Bioshock Infinite's masterful narrative is engaging, thought-provoking, and groundbreaking. The final third of the game is where all of Infinite's most intriguing and mind-blowing ideas come to fruition, and it's with this final third that Bioshock Infinite's story transcends the confines of its game disc and becomes something else entirely. This is an experience you must take as a person and a gamer, and once the ending comes to pass, the first thing you'll want to do is just experience it all over again.
That is an oath you cannot keep. But promise me that if it comes to it, you will not let him take me back.
It won't come to that.
When it comes to visual aesthetic, Bioshock Infinite is masterful in its intricacy. Columbia is a beautiful and colourful place that will go down as one of the best settings ever created in a video game. The art design is flawless and the whole city is filled to the brim with little additions such as propaganda posters and huge towering statues of importance that will immerse you more and more into this well-realised utopia. Every single thing about Columbia and the way it's presented to the player is memorable and beautiful to look at. The character models are spectacular as well in that unique way that only Bioshock can pull off. Every single character looks larger than life and is animated with great detail. Speaking of animations in Bioshock Infinite are well thought out and used extremely well. If it weren't for the brilliance in the animation department, Elizabeth wouldn't be as great of a character that she is. Every single movement she makes is fluid and will make you as the player build a connection with her that you never thought possible in a video game. Overall, everything about the graphics in Bioshock Infinite is completely engrossing and adds to the game's building list of positives.
Give me one of those.
It's just a whisper. They're all ears.
The sound department of Bioshock Infinite is perfection for the ears, as every single aspect is executed perfectly. Every single voice actor in the game is on top of their game, providing realistic and emotional performances. Booker, played by the always amazing Troy Baker, and Elizabeth, portrayed by the wonderful Courtney Draper, are the standouts here as their chemistry is off the charts. If the voices behind Booker and Elizabeth were to not work, then the two's dynamic in the game would have been completely botched, but thankfully the two are masterful in their craft and provide some of the best moments in the game with the conviction and seriousness that they deserve. And that's not all. The soundtrack in Bioshock Infinite is great as well. From the building screech of violins as you enter the spectacular city in the sky, to the downright tear-jerking cover of Will the Circle Be Unbroken by Courtney Draper, the soundtrack never ceases to amaze. It just adds the right amount of prominence to the right scenes every single time, thus making the experience even more unforgettable.
By and by is a better home awaiting in the sky, in the sky.
The gameplay in Bioshock Infinite is fast, exciting, and extremely addicting. In the first few hours of the game, it basically plays like the original Bioshock did, as you'll be using weapons and powers, now named Vigors, to deal with the various enemies in your way. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, as the shooter gameplay mechanics have been tightened since its predecessor, and using Vigors such as the bucking Bronco to lift enemies in the air or the possession Vigor to take control of motorized turrets is still as invigorating as using the plasmids was in the original Bioshock. But it's when you finally meet up with Elizabeth that things really start to get interesting. You see, Elizabeth has a superpower that essentially lets her open tears in the game world and lets her bring things in such as walls for cover or automated turrets, etc., which adds a new and innovative layer to the combat. Not only that, but it's also great because it encourages the player to be watchful of their surroundings and differ in their approaches to combat. What's cool is that that's not the only thing that Elizabeth can do to aid you in firefights, as she can also find and throw you ammo, health, or salts for your vigors in mid-combat. So when you find yourself running low on ammo, you can be sure that Elizabeth has noticed and is out on the battlefield searching for some to throw to you. It's a great mechanic and it all works building towards a strong relationship between you and Elizabeth. She's not just a girl you have to escort, she is your partner and is integral to your survival. The other big gameplay element to Bioshock Infinite is the skylines. Skylines are used to traverse environments quickly and stylishly. Using your skyhook, you'll be using the skylines to get the drop on enemies, run from bigger threats, and get yourself to higher ground. The skylines are so much fun to utilize in combat, and they effectively make you feel like a superhero while also giving you a vitalizing sense of momentum. The best part is that it adds a good sense of verticality to the combat, and the skylines themselves make every single scenario in which you use them memorable and exhilarating. The best part is that the enemies can use the skylines too, and thanks to the AI being so good in Bioshock Infinite, they utilize them to their advantage, and you'll be frequently caught in skyline chases as you play through the game. I have never come across an idea as unique as the skylines, and it's the addition of this gameplay element that to me makes Infinite stand out gameplay-wise from any first-person shooter ever made.
Stand down! Stand down!
Sword and the wings of angels. Watch your...
Other than the normal enemies, Bioshock Infinite also boasts some unique mini-bosses called Heavy Hitters. The Heavy Hitters consist of the motorized Patriot, a creepy George Washington robot complete with miniguns, the Handyman, a giant robot that has a huge human head and heart, and the Boys of Silence, which are, to be put simply, scary as hell. The two you will be seeing the most though are the Motorized Patriots and the Handymen. These two mini-bosses are great to fight as they both have their weaknesses that you have to exploit in order to stay alive. For instance, in one of the many encounters I had with a Handyman, I was hurtling around on the skyline shooting him as I passed, and then he proceeded to jump on the skyline and send electricity around it to get me off. It was a great moment that showed the sadistic nature of the Handymen and the brilliance of the AI. The heavy hitters are just a hell of a lot of fun to fight. Of course, being a Bioshock game, you have many vendors you can visit to buy health, ammo and upgrades for your weapons and vigors. These are still a great part of the gameplay in Infinite as it lets you mold the character that you like and feel comfortable with. But what's great is that they didn't stop there. In Bioshock Infinite, you can now find gear like hats and shirts that can give you special buffs like having your gun be automatically reloaded when jumping off of a skyline. This all helps to make Bioshock Infinite become one of the most versatile first-person shooters I've seen in years. You would think that being a strictly single-player experience, that Bioshock Infinite would have next to no replay value, but thankfully, there is. If the story doesn't have you playing through the game over and over again, then the voxophones, optional missions, and the sadistically hard 1999 mode will. You see, scattered through Columbia are voxophone recordings that give you more insight into the interesting world of Columbia and the brilliant storyline. Finding them is a lot of fun, and not only is it another reason to experience the wondrous world of Bioshock Infinite, but it also gives you more reason to explore the very much open environments and take it all in. You will also come across a lot of optional missions throughout your playthrough, and these all add to the running time and give you more reasons to keep on coming back, especially for the ones you missed the first time round. Not only that, the game offers the incredibly daunting 1999 mode, which is where you are tasked to play the game through on hard, but the catch is that if you have less than 100 silver, then you won't respawn and will have to start the game from the beginning. It's a great mode for those who want to test their prowess and give themselves a bigger challenge.
Sabotage the engine and bring this thing down.
That's all I have.
Okay, now to get off this thing.
Bioshock Infinite is the greatest game I have ever played and will be talked about for years and years to come. In an industry packed full of generic rehashes, remakes and corporate cash-ins, Bioshock Infinite soars as a generation-defining experience that not only opens your mind for new possibilities for storytelling in games, but also gives you a satisfying gameplay experience that's full of thrills, emotions, and ultimately one of the best conclusions in gaming history. The game does have its tiny nitpicking problems, but honestly that doesn't stop the game from being the nearest to a perfect experience that we as gamers will ever reach. So for that, I give Bioshock Infinite a 10 out of 10. This is a game that everyone has to experience at least once. Rarely do we have a game of this caliber come along, and when it does happen, it's something to be celebrated. I don't care what system you play it on, just make sure you experience Bioshock Infinite in all of its infinite glory. Hey guys, if you liked the review, then subscribe to the channel and check out the TeamGamersNetwork.com as we have a ton of gaming goodness waiting for you. Also, if you're interested, I have a Twitter and I post a lot of gaming updates, so be sure to follow me if you love gaming as much as I do. Bye guys.